Hello, hello, everybody. Thank you for your patience in our 4-minute delay. We were just chit-chatting. Welcome to LinkedIn Live. I'm Claire Wasserman, founder and author of Ladies Get Paid. We are an educational platform, global community, and a book all about helping women earn more and live better. As part of that mission, you know I love to invite other women on to our LinkedIn page, although we are simultaneously streaming on Facebook and YouTube. And I want to know how other women are doing this. What are the tips that they have to help their communities earn more and live better? And for today's conversation, I've invited, and Alvina, am I getting your name right? I should have asked you earlier. Alvina Peat. She's a career empowerment coach and author. We're going to be talking about how to effectively take control of your career so that you can change your financial future. I'm going to give a very brief bio for her, but she knows herself best. So she'll take it from there and give you more details in just a moment. But in short, Alvina encourages women to focus on their strengths and not their gaps. And you've said when a woman begins to see herself through the lens of her strengths, she becomes more empowered and powerful. For over 20 years, Alvina has helped women across industries shine the light on who they are and what they bring to the table. And she's also has a 4-part career empowerment leadership program. And like I mentioned earlier, she's an author, so she can go into more detail about what her book is all about. But thank you, Alvina, for being here. Super appreciate your time today.
You're welcome.
I would love for you, well, give us a little more detail about the kind of work that you do and what brought you to that work.
So the kind of work that I do, I am by, I guess you would say trade or trainee. I am a career empowerment coach, but I started off as a human resources leadership development trainer, so to speak, or training professional, and leading workshops around interpersonal skills in the workplace. But I always boil it down to, I just enjoy helping people be more successful in whatever work that they do. And that's how I sum it up.
Yeah. And I'm curious for you, if we're going to be focusing on taking control of your career, is that something that you at any point felt like you didn't have, that you weren't being intentional with your choices, or more so you were working with employees or there were people in your life where you just saw them not being, in the driver's seat, so to speak?
Both. So there were, and there are times when I still struggle with being in control of my career, reminding myself that I make the choices, I make the decisions. And so early on in my career, it was probably more of a time where I felt like, where am I going? What am I doing? How do I get there? And then whatever happened to present itself is what I said yes to, just to work. But then there came a point where I said, okay, this is not doing it for me. What I'm doing to pay my bills is not necessarily what I really want to be doing. It's not really what my heart's desire is. And I think once that became really clear to me that, this is what I'd rather be doing, I just need to let somebody know that I exist and that I have the talent and skill to do it. Doors started to open. And when I work with women, often they'll talk about how they landed in a particular position or career, and they didn't really make a plan to be this or that or hold this title or that position. It was just due to hard work or longevity or whatever, they found themselves in a particular position and they just went with the flow. And so I challenge, I don't want, maybe challenge is too strong of a word, but I encourage women to really think about, is this where you want to be? And I only do that with women who come to me and say, I'm not really feeling this job, or I'm not really feeling the work that I do anymore. And that's when I start with the question around, well, how did you get here? Tell me a little bit about how you landed in this position. And usually as we work our way back, it's, oh, well, this door opened and that door opened and I just stepped in. I didn't really think about it. Or it was a promotion, there was more money involved, so I took it.
How can we be more intentional in defining our goals?
So asking yourself that question, what are my goals? And if you don't have any, that's fine. But what do I want to do? Do I like what I'm doing? I could ride this out. Oh, no, I really don't like it anymore. But one of the questions that someone asked me, and I put it in my book, was, what's your heart's desire? And no one had ever asked me that before as it related to anything, but especially work. And I was speaking with someone and I was going on and on about, not being fulfilled in my position and not knowing what to do next. And after about 15 or 20 minutes of that, conversation, I just remember her saying, well, what's your heart's desire? And I've told this many times, but I'll say it again. I said to her flippantly, to make money, to pay my bills. Like, what else? But when I got off the phone with her, I really sat with that question, like, yeah, what is my heart's desire? I've never thought about it. But once I asked that question, it started to become clear what I wanted and also what I didn't want.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Something in your coaching, so I'm just looking at your website right now, you have basically these three bullets. So what your career goals are, okay, and how to define them. And then the next one you have is, what are the perceived barriers to you getting to those goals effectively? Mm-hmm. I love that you use the word perceived barriers. So let's dig into that a little bit more for somebody who is feeling like, okay, I have a sense of the direction I want to go in, but there's a lot of obstacles in my way, whether they're perceived or otherwise. What's some counsel we can give them?
So I'm glad you picked up on that word perceived, because much of the work that I do and the design that I create around any programs that I offer, people will hear me say, there's a narrative out there about, why we hold ourselves back, why we're held back, and how much we make, how much men make, all of that, is proven. It's proven. But I want to help women change the internal narrative. And that being, I'm not enough. I don't offer enough. I don't bring enough to the table. And therefore, I'm not going to go after this position or that position, or I'm not going to ask for this raise or that raise, because their self-perception is one that's really holding them back. I would say that's more important than anything else, is how you see yourself and how you perceive the roadblock. So is it true that women make less than men? Yes, right? It's true. It's true. Is it true that you have to make less than a man? No, that's your story. And that's what I mean by your perceived roadblock. Now, I make it sound really easy, and I know that it's not as easy as saying, no, I'm going to make more. But I know that a lot of times we just accept, like, oh, well, what's the point? Or I'm afraid to ask because I don't want to lose what I have. And those are the women that I work with, the women who I feel could really be helped more around changing their perception of themselves.
Yeah. Do you have any examples of that? Whether obviously identifying details from a client or even for yourself, where there was a certain mindset, perhaps with evidence, right? Or they at least saw it as evidence. This is true because X, Y, and Z, and how you were able to get them to see it differently.
When about 25 years ago, I had been offered a position and I wanted more money. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking to myself, they'll never give me more money. This is just a wonderful company. Anybody would be happy to work for them. And my boss at the time at the current company, she knew that I was applying. In fact, she and my mentor had encouraged me to apply for this position. And she said to me, "Are you going to negotiate your salary?" And I said, "Well, they'll never give me more money. Everybody wants to work for this organization and it's already a good salary." And she said, "No, no, no. You always negotiate your salary." I was like, "What?" And she's like, "No. Yeah, so it's more than you make currently, but it's not enough." And fortunately, and I tell women this, have a mentor. If it's not your boss, and it's probably not great to have your boss as your mentor, but have someone that you respect and that you've seen them assert themselves. You've seen them, you can rely on them to help you through those challenging times or those challenging questions. And so, had it not been for those two individuals, and maybe they're watching, I don't know, but they encouraged me. And after that, I just knew, like, that was my internal block barrier that said, "Oh, they're never going to pay me more." Oh, because by the way, I did get what I asked for after the negotiation. So when I went back and I negotiated, I got what I asked for. And that also set the tone for every other raise and bonus after that. So
So true. And by the way, if you're like, I don't know where to find a mentor, come to Ladies Get Paid. I'll be your mentor. Like that, we do job seeker support groups every month for free. We've got group coaching every month as part of the pro membership, which is just $15 a month. So ladiesgetpaid.com. Question about strength. So one of the quotes that you gave was, when a woman begins to see herself through the lens of her strengths, she becomes more empowered and powerful. But you also have said you want women to shift from focusing on their gaps to their strengths, which makes me think perhaps people you've worked with, and I as well, a lot of times it's what am I not good at and wanting to make that better, as opposed to going, what am I naturally actually good at, and leaning more into that. So I'm curious for you, how would you recommend somebody go about maybe identifying their strengths? And if you have any stories around that, I always, I love to hear stories.
okay. So yes, I do have my go-to is Gallup Strengths Finder.
Okay.
So, anybody listening, watching, you can go to my website and gain access to Gallup and buy your assessment right there through my website. And if you have any questions, I'll give you my contact information, all that good stuff, and I can help you with that. If you don't want to go to my website, go directly to Gallup and you'll see the Clifton Strengths 34 assessment. So that's my tool. That's the tool I use in my women's programming. And whether it's through the program that I offer or one-on-one coaching, I always start there. And what we didn't talk about was my pillars of empowerment. So the first pillar of empowerment is I do. That's the first pillar. And I do is really having people look at their, what I call props, their personal realization of power. What is it that you do really well that is your superpower? Now, the Clifton Strengths Finder helps to, I would say, validate that for some. But most of the women say to me, every program that they attend around leadership or empowerment always begins with, what are my gaps? Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
We pick ourselves apart enough as it is. What are your strengths? And let's build from there. Recently, in the last cohort that I just worked with, there was a person in the session talking about what her heart's desire was. And she said, but I don't have any transferable skills for this thing that I want to pursue. And I said, but then you have transferable strengths. Because that's a different way of looking at yourself. Because we know, there's a particular study out there, and I can't remember who did the study, but it's around women feeling that we have to have, everything that a job request or a job offer request, description request. And then but our male counterparts say if they have 60%, they're going to throw their hat in the ring. And I want to make a shift. I want a worldwide shift where women feel just as confident as their male counterparts in looking at a job opening and saying, okay, I'm not going to worry about what I don't have yet. What do I have? And if I have to use what I have to somehow figure out how to close that, to work in the areas that I don't or that I need to strengthen, that's okay, but lean into my strengths more. So that's like my mission, is to just stop us from looking at what we don't have. Now, obviously, there's some very significant skills and things that are needed for a job, right? That you have to have, right? So, but you don't have to have all of them.
Mhm.
They're not all equal weight.
Right.
And I think that's something that we have to be more realistic with ourselves. If it's a specialty, if it's, you know, brain surgery and you do heart surgery,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? But um, but when we're talking about the broader, like, okay, this is what I have. Even going back to that example, if you say, well, okay, here are my strengths. I'm not afraid of blood. I'm not afraid of the inner body. I know I can learn it, whatever.
Mhm.
That's something that you really want to do. Really peel back and look at, here are the strengths I have. So how do they transfer to me doing this? Is it realistic? It could be. Let me see. I don't know. But what I think we do is sometimes we just shut ourselves down and say, no, I don't have, nope, I can't do that. This is my lane.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, I love that you said that you have 4 tenets of this kind of career empowerment, taking control. Love a good acronym. If it's, with the props, that was excellent. Yeah. So the second was the strengths, leaning into the strengths. What are your other 2?
So it's I do, I desire, I dare, and I deserve. So the I do is my strength. The I desire is, what is it that I want to do? Then it's the I dare. So what are those perceived roadblocks? How do I get them out of the way? And then, do I really know that I deserve it? So, and that's a sticky one.
Mm-hmm.
I deserve is a sticky one, because oftentimes we have been conditioned, we being women, have been conditioned to put everyone first.
Yeah.
Everybody's needs before our own. And then whatever's left, we take that little bit of time for ourselves. Or so when the kids graduate, then I'll take on that promotion. Or when everybody else is fed, then I'll eat, whatever. And sometimes it is important, and I always emphasize this, only you know what makes you tick. So if seeing that your children or your family's happy and provided for really gets you going, and then you're empowered. Because I don't define empowerment for you.
Mm-hmm.
You define empowerment for you, and you define fulfillment for yourself. So I'm never going to say to a woman, oh, no, don't put the kids first, put yourself first.
Right.
I don't deal in that. That's your decision. What I am going to say is, if you find that there are things that would help you to develop or grow or feel fulfilled or happy, and you're putting them on the back burner all the time, not expressing them, and you're not feeling good about it, it's not really working for you, but you're kind of making it work,
Mm-hmm.
then that's probably an opportunity to explore. Okay, maybe I can't have it all right now, but what's one little thing that I could do that's working towards this goal? Or what's one little thing that I can do that's just about developing myself or just making myself happy? And I deserve it.
Mm-hmm. For somebody who it's been a very, very long time since they have felt fulfilled or have felt empowered, They absolutely don't feel like they are in the driver's seat of their career, let alone their life. How do you get them, to believe that it's possible? And I find it's sometimes a little bit of a chicken and the egg, especially if it's a person who, it's like, when I get there, I will feel good. But we need them to feel sort of good now in order to get there faster and with more ease too. So how do you inject some of that excitement into a person whose life, just like I said, is certainly not feeling exciting?
I think one of the things that helps the most is when we look at their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
I ask them what their props are, and they really start to think about it. One that comes to mind for me is a person who said to me, "I'm a people pleaser. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
people pleaser. I'm a people pleaser. And I know it's not good, but I'm a people pleaser." And then she did the report, the Strengths Finder, and one of her top 5 strengths was harmony. And she said, "Oh, so what I saw as a negative was really not so much a negative, because it's not so much about me wanting to please people. It's about creating harmony in my relationships, work, professional or personal. I like harmony." And she lit up. She literally, in front of me, the smile came on her face, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, I just feel so much more empowered. I feel more good. I feel better about myself. Um, I feel good about this part of me." And so I think that it really is helping people reframe how they see themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing that I say, I'm a huge proponent of therapy. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a therapist, and I always say this, I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
So my analogy is the coach can lead you lead you to it, but the therapist gets you through the door, because then you can peel back at, well, what is this? Why am I feeling this way? Where did this come from? How do I overcome this? So I often tell women, like, another example, if someone says to me, "I'm always in toxic work environments. I
Mm-hmm.
always find myself in toxic work environments." My question then becomes, so why? Why do you find yourself in toxic work environments? Most people don't know that. I can't answer that for you. But I say, but there's probably someone out there, a good therapist, that can help you explore that. And it's like, oh, I never thought about it. Well, it's something to think about, right? Because we've gotten you to the point of understanding, in that scenario, my role as the coach, and what I hear is toxic, toxic. I'm in a toxic work environment, and the next job is a toxic. And every time I'm coaching you, I'm hearing the same thing. And then it's like, okay, I got you to say that these environments, or recognize that they're toxic, but we don't know why you keep ending up in that situation. So you need maybe to consider someone who can help you explore that, and feel safe, can create safety, psychological safety for you to explore that. And so I highly recommend, when people say, "Well, I'm seeing a coach," I always say, "Are you seeing a therapist
Yeah.
as well?" Because that can
Yeah.
help you to unload. Now, some people will say to me, "I don't want to unload that deeply." Then that's another story. But I
And you're
encourage.
like, then that person definitely needs it. I know my joke is always, buy the ladies get paid book, but also get a therapist. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Question about self-compassion, because that's a huge, huge part of all of this, especially in your I deserve tenant. Um, Practicing self-compassion. So for somebody who's maybe in the moment of that self-doubt or self-flagellation, I can't take control of my career, what would be some advice you have for cultivating the self-compassion piece?
Just remember what it is that you do well. Maybe you, at this stage in your life, you feel stuck in the career, or that you can't take control of your career, but there's probably one tiny aspect of it that you do have more influence than you thought. And that, again, going back to the strengths, you know, what is it that I bring that others value? What is it that I do that others value and that I know I do it well? And then just, I would say, be compassionate. Show yourself as much compassion as you would show someone else. I have a friend who taught me this, and it always stayed with me. When I was a mother of a, 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 a young child, and it was stressful, very stressful, she said to me one day, here's a practice, and I forget where she got it from. She told me the author. But anyway, she said, in that moment, think about all the other moms in the world who are experiencing that and send light to them. You know, and so I remember one day I was making lunch for my daughter, and she was, I don't know what she was doing, but it was a very stressful morning. And I just remember stopping and saying, you know, wow, there are millions of people out here doing the same thing today, trying to figure out what their kids are going to eat. And some of them don't have anything to give their kids to eat. Some of them have an abundance of things. Like, all of this was going through my head, but I didn't feel alone.
Yes.
And so when you're thinking about your work and you're thinking about, you know, how challenging it is, and you just, some days you just feel like, oh, I just can't take this place anymore. Show yourself compassion by thinking about so many others that are probably experiencing the same thing. And if you can't give yourself compassion, then send them some mental compassion.
Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps from that. That is so, so good. And especially for women, oftentimes we find it's easier to advocate on behalf of others than ourselves. So when I talk about salary negotiation, I always say, if you can't ask for yourself, do it on behalf of all of us. This kind of is a riff off of that. Because also it shows you that you have the capacity for compassion, and you're at least getting, physically, you are summoning that. And though you may be, quote, channeling it to others, you are part of the collective. You recognize that there is a universal experience happening here. So even by sending it to others, you are still sending it to yourself. I think that's beautiful advice. Oh, well, gosh, we're technically at time. So I guess I would say, any final words of wisdom as it comes to taking control of your career and your financial future? And then after that, certainly want you to let everyone know where they can find you, follow you, and most importantly, pay you.
You know, the final story I want to share with you is, my mother worked in factories most of her life. And she used to tell me the story many times, that she was an amazing seamstress, and she did piecework, and she had made so much money, whatever that was at that time. And her supervisor came to her and said, looked at her record and said, you have to take some of this off. You've made too much. And you sewed more pieces than the men. And you can't make more than the men and the supervisors. So we're going to take some of it away. And I was probably 12 or 13 when she told me that story. And I remember that. And my mom was, she let you know how she felt. But she told me that. And I always remember that, because she taught me the importance of advocating for yourself. You have to advocate for yourself. And then it taught me, because it was a female supervisor that did that to her.
Ooh.
That to her. And any woman in a leadership position that's not supporting other women in a leadership position, ask yourself why. What's holding you back from supporting other women? Now, that was a long time ago, and I get it, right? Like, this woman was probably trying to keep her job, feed her family. I'm not judging her. But today, as women, we have to support each other. We have to. And those are my final words.
Amazing. tell us where, links to find you. And by the way, for those who are watching on our Facebook and YouTube channels, come on over to the Ladies Get Paid page after, because Alvina is going to be commenting on the recording with those links. But yeah, just tell us, how can people connect with you? And also if you have anything coming up that people can get involved with, that would be awesome to hear about.
Okay, so you can find me. If you Google Alvina Peat, you're going to find my LinkedIn, you're going to find my website, you're going to find all sorts of stuff about me. If you go to my website, you'll see previous podcasts. It's alvinapeat.com. Email me at email me at alvina@williamspeatasoap.com. Find me on LinkedIn. Coming up, July 2024, my Her Empowerment Retreat. I offer that on around International Friendship Day. So it's always bring a friend, and you'll find more information in the coming months.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for being here with us. Again, ladiesgetpaid.com/subscribe is a way to find out about upcoming events. We do tons of them, including one tomorrow with a career coach who's going to be talking about imagining different career possibilities that you maybe haven't thought of before. And then on Thursday of this week, we're going to have a financial coach on. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Claire Wasserman and on Instagram at Claire Gets Paid. Speaking of getting paid, now go get paid. Thank you, Alvina. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.